Photography sustains me. No, I have never thought of giving up.
Smidge.
No. I wake up thinking it. I wake up looking at the sky for a good sunrise.
Greetings everybody, it's Jik-Reuben the Visual Ninja. Welcome to another episode of Focal Point. Today we have the legendary Donnette Zacca in the building, Silver Musgrave Award, awardee of 2015. Miss Zacca, how are you?
I am very well, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here in your lovely home.
Thank
with
you.
all these lovely photographs that you've taken over the years.
And it's nice to have you here as well.
It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure too.
So tell us, Miss Zacca, in one word, define Miss Donnette Zacca.
In one word, that's very difficult to do, but I would think adventurous.
Adventurous. And why is that? Tell me a little about your background and how.
Why adventurous? I like to search and find. I think we're talking about photography, and photography is mainly about searching around and finding new things. And that is where the adventure comes in. I always want to find something that nobody else has had.
Nice.
So the search is my adventure.
And at what point in your life did you realize that photography was your calling?
Well, in 1976 I enrolled at the School of Art, thinking that I would become a graphic designer or an artist. And then I realized that photography was a big part of graphic designing or one of the subjects that graphic artists used to use. At the end of 4 years, I realized that photography was my strongest subject. So when I graduated in 1980, bam, I knew I was headed into the world of photography. That was easy for me.
So at that tender age, who tell me one photography you could say that inspired you a lot around that time?
When I was going to school, we never used a lot of references.
Oh.
I looked at the work of fellow students or my lecturer, and I realized that I wanted to be like my lecturer at the time. And he always showed us photographs of Ansel Adams. And I thought too that I wanted the perfection of Ansel Adams. So it is easy to say that Ansel influenced my early beginning, my style of darkroom printing, my looking at nature, my wanting to be precise, to be exact, to show exactly what I'd seen in the environment.
You mentioned that you were inspired by your fellow classmates, and I think that's similar to my background, whereas I don't really have a distinct, I don't have a list of photographers I can reel off on my head that overseas or whatever that I really look up to. But my colleagues, not only in photography but like in visual arts overall, sculptures, like Matthew McCarthy, he inspires my photography a lot. I look at how the dedication and the passion that he has for his craft, and I kind of replicate that with what I do with my photography. So that's rather interesting.
Right.
Nice.
Referencing is a recent thing. And especially with digital photography, people are anxious to see what others are doing in the rest of the world. So referencing has become a big part of teaching and learning. But I really wasn't looking at a lot. I looked at Maria Lycona's work here in Jamaica and Ray Chen, the local photographers. And I never looked at an awful lot until 88 when I graduated from the University of Cincinnati.
Nice. Talk to me a little bit about your accomplishments and some of your proudest moments in photography.
Accomplishment. That's not so easy to talk about. I hate to talk about myself like that, but I have been teaching for 35 years. 5 years at Woolmer's Boys School, just teaching art and craft. And then I went to the Edna Manley College where I taught for part-time and then full-time. I have introduced a lot of students to photography who have been out there and who have made it. And those are very, very proud moments when I see them working and working well. I have done a lot of little things for the country, stamps, for example, photographing popular people, documenting historical places, working on calendars, book illustrations, and so on.
Nice.
So my work is always out there, and it's been ongoing, you know. I like teaching because I see the results right away. And I think that is probably my strongest area of accomplishment.
Nice. And that's what brought you through to Woolmans and then Edna Manley.
Yes.
And now at the Sauna Studio.
Right.
Nice, nice. Being an educator, tell me at least one thing you've learned, because you know sometimes as an educator you learn from your students as well. Give me an example of one thing you've learned from a student.
You know what I've learned recently? To be patient. Since I've been at Sauna Studios, my class of 6 intermediate students, one boy turned up one night with one piece of work out of 10, and he took a little while to psychobabble on this one piece of work, and I got so mad I lost my temper, and I had to call him that same night to apologize. And I probably apologized to him 3 times since my outrage. So at this stage and age, I am learning to be patient. I've also learned to give and not to count the cost. I really like to share. I like to see my students develop out of my input. I really like to share. I really like to share.
So Ms. Zacca, still on the topic of students, can you name one student you've met either through the photo club or teaching at Edna or Sauna that has really caught your eye and inspired you?
Only one?
Well, if you want to this more, you can.
In recent times, there is a guy on my Facebook page, Zacca Photo Group page, called Ranik Rambo.
Okay.
And Ranik has been inspiring me a lot. He has been exploring. I don't think he's trained, but I think he's very curious, and I can see what he's learning every day. His editing skills are superb.
Nice. And as an educator, you're naturally attracted to curiosity.
And people who, people will try at every effort.
Nice.
I also like Patrick Planter. He was in one of my classes at the Edna Manley College, continuing education classes. And I watched him grow as well, and I think he's doing well today. But there are a number of other students that I think I am still watching, and they're doing pretty well. That's one of the things in life I am really proud and happy about, that students have excelled.
Nice.
And everywhere in Jamaica. If a name is called, as far as a photographer is concerned, the person might be able to say, I went to Edna Manley College, or I went to Sauna Studios. I've met Donnette Zacca.
Are you working on any new projects right now?
I am rediscovering old lenses that I can use on my new camera. So I've just discovered a wide-angle lens that was made for an enlarger. And I realized that it fits my kit lens for my Nikon 610, and I'm using it like nothing. So I'm exploring every day. I've just started a few days ago, and I went out today, and I was out 2 days ago. So I am exploring that.
Nice. So working with old lenses.
Old lenses. I'm also looking at some old silver gelatin stuff, and I'm drawing on the surfaces and revamping prints. Yes. But there's always something to do, Jik. There's always something to do. With all that I have accumulated, just revisiting and reworking is enough work.
And I think sometimes that's all we need to do, just look back at what we've done previously to get re-inspired. True. You spoke about, you know, tracing over your silver gelatins. That brings me to more of some of the stuff you've been known for, like marbling and superimposing and all of that. Talk to me a little about that.
When I went away to school in 1988, I discovered a little bit more about photography that was not happening here in Jamaica. I realized that being a photographer coupled with being an artist was great. I now had the right and the privilege of enhancing prints. So it would take a little bit more, or in addition to going into a dark room and making a print, I could draw on the surfaces, or I could paint on them, or I could tear the prints and create collages. And later on, way down in life, I developed something that was called marbling. It's a sort of a less controlled method of staining the surface of a print, but controlling the way the paint would play on the print. So this image in the background is one such
it's a
image.
beautiful piece. Very beautiful.
Thank you. It was in fact a photograph of two boys. It's cut in half.
Okay.
There's a little piece of a little,
yeah,
right. And there's a big long story around that image. So when this came out and it was successful, I was happy. When we get to talking about, or would you like me to talk about that now?
You can talk about this piece in particular.
This piece is from the Bickerstead Boys series. Bickerstead is a place in St. James, not too far away from Cambridge. In fact, about 4 miles from Cambridge, where I was born.
Is that country 4 miles or Kingston 4 miles?
Real 4 miles. I was going home one weekend and I came up to where the railroad crossed the main road. So the little house on this side of the road would have been the watchman's house, the guy who would open and close the gate, the gate man's house. And the house was burnt flat. Just playing around were two boys, and this fella was one of the boys. They had nothing left of that fire. They were naked. The mother had on her skirt and her brassiere, I guess just the way she went to bed. But the house was burned flat. The two little boys were very happy. I guess they didn't even understand. They didn't understand what was happening. And I started to photograph them, and they did a thing for me. But there were moments when they were a little bit saddened, and that was one of the moments.
As you said that, do you think that throughout the times that's gotten more difficult to just go into a brand new environment and photograph people?
Definitely. And more people are aware of cameras and what the photographer will want to do with the pictures. People think, first of all, that you want to sell the image, so you're going to benefit from their faces and their behavior. And then people are now thinking that they're going to be on social media, and sometimes they don't think they need to be on social media. Where tape photography is now taking their privacy away
from them.
Right. That is very typical. But I still like people in photographs. I like the landscape, but I like to see the behavior of children. I'm unaware. I like to tell stories about communities using faces. I like to talk about our way of life in my photography. I like to build stories. I really like storytelling. And when I look back at an image, I remember a lot about the environment and the location and
everything
all that.
comes back basically. Nice.
I love that.
Before we move on to the next location, where you're gonna talk to us, carry us through your portfolio and explain everything in details, I have one last question for right here. Have you ever felt like giving up throughout your years of doing photography? Photography
sustains me. No, I have never thought of giving up. No, I wake up thinking it. I wake up looking at the sky for a good sunrise. Nice. I go home every evening looking at the sky for a sunset. I think it. It relaxes me. It is all I can do. I mean, I like a little cooking every now and then. But I like to collect stones, but it's not the first thing I like to do because I like to photograph the stones. I like to collect pictures from people. I just like to come home at night and look at photographs again and again and again. That collection over there is all photography. All color pictures, all black and white pictures, just photograph. My house is full of it.
So you're living in a world where photography is just
number one. It's just number one.
There's nothing beyond, nothing before this photography.
There's a lot of junk photography. There's a lot of nothing photography, and there's a lot of serious photography. It's all photography.
Let me see
I enjoy it.
So, Ms. Zacca, we have here some of your pieces from back in the darkroom days, some digital stuff as well. Let's just go through briefly, some of the techniques that we are seeing in the booklet here. So we can even start on what we have here.
Right. Okay. When I went away in '88, I became aware of other things I could do, as I mentioned before. I picked up a book that I went into a photo store one day, and I picked up a book that had Jerry Usheen work in it. Jerry does a lot of darkroom superimposition, and I liked his work. I liked that he was very, very precise. I also looked at Herbert's work, and I thought that he was extremely creative. Maybe not as precise as Jerry Usheen, but Herb was very, very creative in my opinion. So when I came back, I decided that I wanted to try darkroom superimposition. So I started off with pieces like these. I photographed the students at school, always up against a black background. Then I went out in nature and I tried to find something that would demonstrate who they are. And I tried to put it together. So in this photograph, for example, there's a photograph of a guy who I consider a very strong man. And then there's a photograph of a tree that I actually turned upside down.
Okay.
And
so these branches are actually naturally facing downward.
Right. Here's the root of the tree going up, and the branch is coming down. But because this face is in this upward position, this is the way I'm inviting people to look at the shot. So they were mainly students that I played around with, up against a black.
It's almost like you're speaking to several things. You're talking about the strength of the man, but then you're also looking at you're looking towards the black man is the root of civilization. There's so many things that can come from it.
The strength of the man being measured against the strength of a strong tree. Yes. So this was a darkroom superimposition, and I realized that I could now superimpose anything and everything. In here, for example, I shot this typography. This was a piece of poetry that my friend wrote. I took a picture of it, and this is the friend in the photograph. So I merged both things.
So how exactly do you do this in the darkroom?
Okay, in the darkroom, I'll take 2 strips of negative. Your enlarger can accommodate 2 or 3 strips of negative. The lady is shot on 1 strip of negative. The typography is on another strip.
Oh, so you took a photograph of this?
I took a photograph of the text. And if she's shot up against a black background on your negative, the background is going to be crystal clear. So I imposed the second negative where the type could come through that clear space. And I made an exposure.
So this type of work here, superimposing, it takes a certain amount of
working out before you get to the darkroom.
So it's not just snap.
No. You go to the darkroom with an idea that you've shot before. So you perceive this arrangement. You go to the darkroom, and all you have to do is put the negatives together and try several exposures until it is right.
Okay. Let's see something else.
Maybe another piece that I really like is here.
Yeah, I like this.
It's creating a collage, and this is the. I shot this sunset. Did a cutout of myself from another photograph.
Oh, and you had dreads?
Yes. Pasted it down onto the sunset and created those kinds of free dazed lines on it to say freedom or dream or sleep or relax.
So what would you call this technique?
It's collaging.
Collaging, okay.
So I made an image of that. I created a negative from that, and here is a print from that.
Oh.
So there you can't feel anything on here. Today in Photoshop, you could soften the edges of that line.
And blend it back in.
Right.
So in the Darkroom, you basically had two photos.
Two photographs, cut them out, paste them together,
and take another,
painted on the surface, took another picture, and the second negative would be the end result.
Nice, nice.
And I did a number of those. People saw them and liked them. So they asked me to do images of themselves in here. This one is a superimposition, so there is one face here and there's a face looking forward. And then I drew on top of all of that and I added color. This is a straight nice black and white.
Yeah, take it out and look at it closer.
So they became one-of-a-kind images. One of a kind until I took a second photograph of it. Today I can now digitally document that.
You serious?
I love that.
Wow.
I love this tint of blue in here and tint of purple. It's lovely.
Nice blend. Anything else you want to show us?
Basically the same technique, but I'm drawing shapes. So there's another face in here, lips here, nose here. Same image from here. It's probably the same face, but the negatives are shifted a little bit.
Yes, it's definitely the same face.
Right.
There.
Collaging.
Some more collaging.
Right. So there was a lot of surface manipulation until I got to this stage, the marbling stage.
I guess this is it?
Yes. In marbling, I created the photograph, maybe 5 by 7 that was controllable, 4 by 6, 5 by 7, and then in a tray of water, fresh water, and oil paint, I would add the oil paint to the water, swirl it around, twirl it around a little bit, submerge the picture, pull it back out, twist and turn the picture until the ink was exactly where I wanted it to be.
That is very interesting.
They didn't all work. They didn't
I was
all
going to
work.
say, it's not exact science.
No. Another thing that happened was that I never realized that oil paint wouldn't dry on photographic surface.
So how did it?
So they stayed for days out, just getting a little bit dry, and then I took pictures of those and discard the images I created before. Yeah. So this is one such one. I really like this one.
And so this is the technique that you used for the image that we spoke about earlier.
Right, marbling.
Marbling. And this is
I have never seen anybody else doing it.
So this is a Donnette Zacca original.
This is a Donnette Zacca original. I tried to teach it and it has not really been that successful. You have to really like this thing to stay with it. Understand how much to twist, how gentle to twist, where you would like the paint to go and stop. Put it away.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with here. So you can see areas that would have been wet. That's rolling down there. This is a different color coming down here. So they're done in color, but shot with black and white film.
So this is, you're saying the oil paint was the different colors?
The different hues in here are the colors from the paint.
Oh, okay.
And I just redocumented that with color, with black and white film. I really like this technique. It took a little while. It probably took me 2 years to just explore paints, the oil paints, and to find out how gently or how fast to move my hands to get the desired effect. Sometimes you wouldn't know what's going to happen, but you get to a place where you know, this is where I stop. This is where I stop. That's another one. This is the one that is very popular. I like the Bickerstaff boy. This is very nice.
We have some stuff back here.
This is a slightly different process, and I learned this out of the printmaking department at the college. It's called Xeroxography.
And this is you in the pictures, no?
A friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I made photocopies of these photographs, and then on the copies I added a chemical that would soften the ink on the Xerox print. Made a sandwich on another clean piece of paper and send it through a roller, a press.
Those
the image
big
just
presses
transferred. Right.
So this is so this is the end result.
That is the end result.
Okay.
So the ink is taken off the Xerox print and transferred to this new piece of paper. Very, very interesting process called Xeroxography. So if this ink is permanent, then the prints will be permanent.
Nice.
I like it.
I like this is something that you hardly see in Jamaica, you know, playing with, photography in the darkroom or well, you see it a lot in digital photography nowadays, but it's something
in Jamaica that we never had a lot of.
So it's very refreshing to see this type of work.
I am happy that I had the time to explore, and I'm happy now that I have the time to celebrate it.
And what better time?
Yes. I'm really happy that I had the time to do it. I like the darkroom. I spent hours in the darkroom.
And we have.
And it's okay.
We have
this one is collaging, and this is a recent thing. All of these photographs are from somewhere else, something else, maybe from a book. Then I pasted down the copies from the photograph on this cardboard, added color and ink, made a photograph, a digital slide of that, and reproduced it.
Wow.
It's pretty close.
The colors are pretty close, yeah. I mean, the closest thing, I remember I went to the National Gallery for a summer program, and the closest thing we ever did to, doing photography outside of the digital era was when we would have the photo paper, have it in the solution and go out in the sun. We had like stones and stuff like this on top of it.
And make a contact print.
Contact print, yes, that's what it was called.
Right.
That's the closest thing I ever came with doing anything creative to this level. So this is, I feel like a kid again, looking at these stuff. Hopefully we can do a session where we're actually creating these things, Ms. Zacca.
I hope to teach a course called Alternative Presentation. So we will play around with photographs like this, making collages, drawing on the surfaces. Yes, I think people should get back to the process of hand, of using their hand to create shapes and marks and lines.
I think this is something they can introduce in art class, In
photography
class. High school teachers. Ms. Donnette Zacca, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for inviting us into your humble home, showing us these beautiful pieces, and we'll see each other pretty soon again.
Jink, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. I know a lot of people will learn from this and benefit from this.
I'm pretty sure they'll be coming to your classes soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everybody for watching Focal Point. This is Jik-Reuben and this is Donnette Zacca. Have a great day.
Can you do a still?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we need to do a still actually.